The story begins with how some villain hacked the satellite. At that time, a submarine was floating somewhere on the ground underwater. It was also hacked and its system failed. The one who hacked gave the command to the command post to launch nuclear missiles. Suddenly, the villain's face appeared on the screen. It was the robot Ultron. He told that he is a very intelligent intellect. He told about his plan. His plan was to save humanity. But in order to save humanity, he wanted to completely exterminate all people. Meanwhile, the Avengers were at their base and they could not believe that their comrade from the previous unit had died, and now someone had to remove his hammer, but no one could lift it, since only Thor could do it. At this time, Ant-Man and Iron Man were destroying everything that was left of the robot. This Ant-Man created the Ultron robot, but not for malicious purposes. He did not know yet that his robot was currently hacking the Pentagon and wanted to release nuclear missiles. Ant-Man created this robot to improve people's lives, but it turned out that the robot has become a villain. Suddenly, someone hacked their system too, and someone started controlling Tony Stark's suits. The Avengers were walking through Stark Tower when suddenly the biggest Tony Stark suit came out on them and started attacking them. Someone remotely controlled this suit. 3 more flew behind this suit and they surrounded the Avengers. Suddenly one of them, Kostyumov, spoke and the Avengers realized that this voice belonged to Ultron. At the same time, the villain Ultron made his way to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ship. They tried to destroy him, but his suit was too durable. He needed secret information that only S.H.I.E.L.D. had. Meanwhile, the Avengers tried to fend off Tony Stark's crazed suits. The suits were very durable and the battle with them was not easy for them. Tony Stark had a suit. It was his very first suit that he created. This suit could not hack Ultron because it had little electrical technology. He arrived to the Avengers to help them. He had to destroy his own suits. Hulk and Iron Man went to the S.H.I.E.L.D. ship to stop Ultron. Meanwhile, Ultron tried to find out the codes, but the woman didn't tell him anything. Then he started scanning her brain to get information, but then the Hulk flew in with Iron Man and prevented him from doing it. Ultron was so strong that he easily scattered the Avengers around. Now Ultron had the codes for nuclear missiles, and he gave the command to launch all nuclear missiles in the world to destroy humanity. Many rockets started taking off from all over the world. Meanwhile, Black Panther and Hawkeye were fighting with Tony Stark's suits. The suit wanted to kill Black Panther, but suddenly lightning struck the suit. It turns out it was Thor. Everyone thought he was dead, but no, he was alive. Thor immediately flew to the S.H.I.E.L.D. ship to stop Ultron. Only his power could allow him to do so. While Thor was fighting Ultron, Tony Stark was trying to hack nuclear missiles to destroy them. Ant-Man shrank in size and got into Ultron's head and was able to destroy his system. The missiles were already flying up to the city, but Tony Stark was able to blow them up before they could reach the city. The next day came and the Avengers gathered in the main room to present the news to Thor. Tony Stark said that he had created a portal that could help Thor move to different worlds. Since Thor lived in another world, he needed to return there sometimes, and Tony Stark helped him with this. At the same time, Ant-Man, he was collecting things in his room. He wanted to leave, and the Wasp Woman tried to stop him. But the Ant-Man thought that he was to blame for what the robot Ultron did and therefore left. The Wasp Woman could not convince him and he left. Captain America gathered all the Avengers in the hall and told the story that one day Captain America and his partner named Bucky made their way to the Hydra base. They saw how the head of Hydra, the Red Skull, created a portal and through it drew monsters into this world that he controlled with collars. He collected an army of monsters to take over the world. The Avengers flew out to this place. The Avengers arrived to the north and flew into the cave. The device showed that there was a very powerful energy in this cave, and when they flew into it, they saw a glowing stone. The Wasp Woman tried to take it, but suddenly a huge stone fell from above. It turns out it wasn't a stone. It was a huge green goblin. The Wasp Woman stopped responding by radio. Meanwhile, Iron Man arrived at another cave and found the same stone. He tried to take it, but suddenly someone attacked him from behind. It was a villain named Laser. All these caves with magic stones were traps for the Avengers. Captain America also found the same stone, and when he approached him, several missiles flew into him from somewhere, but he managed to close his shield, thereby saving himself. Each superhero was looking for these stones individually, and when they were looking for them individually, they were easier to grab. Meanwhile, Thor found the most important magic stone. He informed the Avengers about it, but suddenly a charmer appeared from the portal with the villain Zemo, and Thor realized that this was a trap. Zemo gave a command to his people to turn off all communication to the Avengers. The connection was turned off and the Avengers began to lose to the villains. If the Avengers had not split up, they would have together and have already defeated the villains with a cunning plan. Suddenly the stones began to activate. It turns out they were not just stones, they were stones. If they were united, they could open portals, and monsters came through these portals. It was Zemo's plan to destroy people. Thor was held hostage by Zemo. Zemo wanted to kill him, but Thor pulled his hammer and hit him. Now he was free and could save the world from monsters. Thor said that in order to close the portals, it was necessary for every superhero to break a stone. The Avengers broke the stones and the portals closed. Thor woke up on his planet Asgard. He woke up near the throne where his brother Loki was sitting. Loki was a bad man. He dishonestly took this throne. Hawkeye woke up in the forest. A herd of horses ran past him. He did not understand how he got here and what was happening here. He came out of the forest and he realized that he was in space on a small piece of earth. He stopped an elf on a horse and asked what was going on here. The elf said that Hawkeye needed to run because Loki's army is already approaching them and immediately galloped away. Hawkeye did not understand anything, and suddenly mad wolves began to surround him. Meanwhile, Thor was in Asgard. He was a prisoner. It was Loki who locked him up and tortured him. Loki told about her plan. His plan was to capture all 9 worlds. He wanted all the worlds to bow before him. Loki had already captured all the worlds except planet Earth, and he was not going to stop. Meanwhile, Ant-Man turned out to be somewhere in the north. He also already realized that they were in another world. He was carrying a wasp woman in his hands. She was unconscious. Suddenly someone tried to kill him with a big axe. Ant-Man increased in size and ran to attack. At that moment, Captain America tried to contact the Avengers, but his connection did not work. He was also in another world. Suddenly spirits began to appear around him. They said why Captain America did not save them. These were people whom Captain America could not save from death. He always remembered them. At the same time, the Hulk woke up underwater. He swam up and saw old carts passing by him. The Hulk realized that he was in the Middle Ages. He saw that people were being transported in these cages. He stood in front of them and the orcs ran to attack. They did not yet know what the Hulk was capable of. Meanwhile, Iron Man woke up from the fact that he was dragged by orcs. He also did not understand what was happening. It turns out the orcs were good. They introduced themselves and told that Iron Man is in the kingdom of Nidavellir. They asked how he got here, but Tony did not remember. He only remembered how he destroyed the magic stone. At that moment someone broke into the cave. It was a big evil orc. He scattered the orcs around. Then Tony Stark shot at him and he was thrown aside. Meanwhile, Hawkeye was fighting with wolves. They began to corner him, but an elf on a horse came to the rescue and took him away. The wolves chased them, but Hawkeye took the elf's bow. This bow was magical and destroyed all the wolves. At the same time, Thor was talking to Loki. Loki said that he specifically ordered the Enchantress to find a team of enemies for the Avengers, so that while they were fighting with them, he carried out his large-scale plan to capture all the worlds. Loki said that all the superheroes were trapped and were doomed to death. He said that he specially created all sorts of villains and sent them to planet Earth so that the Avengers would fight them and think they were heroes, and while they were fighting, Loki captured worlds. But Loki didn't know that the Avengers had almost defeated all the villains. Loki opened the door to a large room and took Thor there. It was a room for executions. Thor was also to be executed. At this time, the Hulk was fighting with ice monsters. He began to lose, and suddenly Ant-Man flew out of the portal. He joined the Hulk. But that wasn't enough. Then Hawkeye and Black Panther joined them and together they were able to defeat the villains. After a long time, the Avengers will finally meet. Meanwhile, Loki was in his garden. He had a tree that filled him with powers. His servant came to him and said that they had some problems. This problem was the Avengers. Loki thought that he had already defeated them. Loki took out a horn and started blowing into it. A sound was coming from this horn, and this sound was calling the biggest monster. The Avengers were very surprised at the sight of him. It was an ice wolf that could release ice. But the Avengers were not going to give up. They united their forces, and they were able to destroy him. Now it was Loki's turn. The Avengers ran to attack, but Loki easily overcame them, since he was very strong. Loki destroyed the shield of Captain America. The captain could not believe it because this shield could not be broken. Suddenly Iron Man flew in. He had to create a new suit in uncomfortable conditions, but he made it. This suit was created from a rare metal that could not be broken. While Iron Man distracted Loki, the Avengers freed Thor. Now Thor was free and could fight with his brother Loki. To take away Loki's power, it was necessary to destroy the tree of power that Loki had. Ant-Man was able to pull out this tree along with the roots and Loki's power was gone. Now it was easy to defeat him. Loki was defeated. The Avengers gathered with the people of Asgard and all the people thanked the Avengers for defeating the villains.